Hey, you! Yeah, you! You need to be nicer to your Maga family members and friends. Why? Don't click off just yet. I'm about to explain it to you. Hello, everybody. I'm the American Jordy, and stick around to learn something. But before we get into it, I need you to go down below this video and hit that like and subscribe button to tell YouTube that I'm doing more than just inane babbling, that my content actually has some educational value. Thank you so much, and now let's get on with the video. First, I'd like to explain my political alignment. I call myself a labor centrist, and if you know anything about politics, you probably just clicked off this video. So let me explain why these two words together mean something different. Well, first of all, if you're in the US, you hear the word centrist and you're thinking, I'm a moderate. I think that we can cooperate. All I want is compromise. Both sides are equally as bad. Blah, 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 blah. And if you're from the UK or know anything about UK politics, the term Labour probably made you click off because their Labour Party is just the same as our corporate Democratic Party. It's not effective for helping the working class at all. The Australian Labour Party, though, they kind of cook a little bit. Anyways, those two stereotypes muddy the definition of what those words together mean. And that's important because a radical's a radical, and I don't want to be a radical. And deliberately simplifying and narrowing your political perspectives is going to hold yourself back and have you face to face with contradictions you aren't prepared to think about. See, when I use the term centrist, what I mean is that I'm using the entire political compass and ideas from all over the place towards a certain goal. And labor is that goal. I think that I can use the entire political compass to help the working class. And I'll explain that in a bit. But it's first important to realize that the entire political compass have been used against the working class. So that's why this is important. You see, I don't care if it came from a libertarian, an authoritarian, a progressive, or a conservative. If you're pushing policy that's going to effectively help the working class, I'm with you. On the other hand, if you are any one of those four and you're trying to put down the working class, I'm against you. On the case of the working class, a libertarian might defend our right to bear arms or our right to protest, but only an authoritarian is going to write the policy that stops a corporation from infringing on our rights again. A progressive is going to come up with ideas, new ideas, to help us out, while a conservative is going to have that moral backing of all these religions and faiths and tradition to ask why these corporations broke tradition in the first place to push us down. And when you see that's my perspective on politics, you can see that there is a way that we come together for certain goals, but we still have disagreements on how it's done. But I don't think that should matter in the face of trying to achieve the certain goal, which is working class rights. Bleh, ushy mushy kind of stuff. Let's move on. My perspective on politics isn't and shouldn't be your perspective on politics. So let's talk some psychology instead. A study was run last year with 2,000 participants where they exposed to different views, stories, and listened to politicians talk about those news stories. The goal of the study was to find what made someone shift an opinion on a policy, and there are two key ingredients. The first is threat and or perceived threat. That is to say, there must be a problem that is immediate and scary. The second ingredient you might think is fear, but is actually anger. You need to feed them an opinion that gets them riled up with the belief and motivation that they can do something about it. The setback is that this isn't a total shift from one way of belief to another, but a change of opinion on one issue at a time. But I'm about to provide several reasons why that's not important. The first and obvious is the Fox News propaganda machine, in which certain programs are exempt from having to deliver factual news since the court case McDougall versus Fox News ruled that they're an entertainment company that the listener should understand as hyperbole or false. And as part of the reason, conservatives get to just make up threats like trans indoctrination and vaccines cause autism. The second is the marketing funnel. I'll show an infographic on screen now that I stole from Amazon's advertising guide. This is a tool from the business world for building brand loyalty, and I'd hope you're not naive enough to still believe our politics aren't a business. Carrying on, even if you're shifting them one policy at a time, that is a strong attract step that gets them into the funnel. And then that anger and motivation where they believe that they can make a difference. Enough of that over and over, and that's the informed step, also carried through completely. Soon they're watching Fox News and getting quote-unquote informed all the way through conversion and finally engaging with the viewpoints. The third issue we have is the leftist purity spiral, which some of you might know as leftist infighting. I use the term purity spiral just because it is a defined phenomenon, which I'll put up right now. A purity spiral is a hypothesized form of groupthink in which members of a group compete to demonstrate increasingly extreme commitment to a particular value, while expressions of doubt, nuance, or moderation are punished. This self-reinforcing feedback loop is sometimes called moral outbidding. Liberal versus corporate Dem. Antifa versus Democrat. Is kink allowed at Pride? Do trans women actually have to present femme? Polygamy versus monogamy. Atheism versus religious inclusion. The LGBTQIA community versus the Steven Universe gay. Protest versus lobbyer. Can a black man really say the N-word? Does that mean we get to reclaim words too? How mean should I be about enforcing my pronouns? Libertarian versus pacifist. Regret rates. Leftist versus liberal. Holy fucking shit, you're on the same side. Can we put the purest moral ideations down and just hug each other? Unless hugging is too much contact, and oh my god, I should have considered that some people aren't huggers, and some people might just be uncomfortable being hugged by a man. I should have considered that they might have invisible trauma. I should not try to be kind ever again, as it is a moral failing. Or I can go where a hug isn't seen as an offense. Let's consult the marketing funnel again. Memorizing all of the different ways to be good takes a lot of work. Just about everyone, and I mean everyone, is going to dip their toes in the top of the funnel at some point, against their will or otherwise. What do you think happens when someone reaches the informed step and people come out of nowhere telling them that it's simple, that it's obvious, that it doesn't need to be taught, or if they are willing to educate, they insult, berate, accuse, and tear down their potential allies at the top of the funnel? Remember, these won't be people with just a few offensive opinions. They're at the start of their journey of workshopping all their opinions. I'm assuming most people won't even make it to the third step, and if they do, it's only as one of many arguing factions within the left. And that is because the entirety of the left's informed step seems purpose-built to push people back up and out of the funnel. Where does that send them? To the funnel on the right. And finally, we have the way that the right talks about the left. They paint the left as these mean and evil things that stand so strongly against them that it makes their family members, friends, co-workers, dates, girlfriends, and society as a whole hate them. They paint you as a threat. Are you connecting the dots? They get angry with you, and you feed into it. You are considered a threat. Conservative ideation is considered a solution to the threat, and then you confirm the bias. Your lack of kindness is part of a system that keeps people who align with the right stuck on the right. And if you think it isn't intentional, radical conservative groups actually use this as a tool to build up retention. Perhaps unintentionally, but it is effective. When the Amish come of age, they get a period of time to experience the real world in hopes that they'll voluntarily choose to baptize into the faith. Mormon door-to-door missionaries are sent out often as part of a mandatory 2-year period around the time they reach adulthood or later stages of conversion. And these Mormons tend to face a lot of pushback that they might not understand. The sunk cost fallacy is the phenomenon whereby a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they have invested heavily in it, even when it is clear that abandonment would be more beneficial. They develop the ability to face rejection and remain faithful. Based off this NYT article, the missionary experience is so intensely constructive for developing skills of taking rejection with a smile, handling disagreement while staying grounded in their opinion, that they are often picked up as door-to-door salesmen by other companies and organizations to sell unrelated products. These people see being able to disagree with you, see your argumentativeness, while they see their own perceived innocence and kindness in these moments, as a moral victory. They cannot question their beliefs when they believe that they are moral and faithful and that you are not. And you confirm that bias by believing yourself justified to be rude. Now imagine you're a Maga adult being told that you love your family, but there's this evil making them not love you. How are you supposed to ever come out of that darkness when it seems to be like the truth? If you get nothing from this video, please at least understand that your family and friends aren't the enemy, but many of our leaders are. You know, the top versus bottom thing? Anyway, thank you all so much for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day.